Okay, Nate, today you wanted to talk about astral projection.
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk about what the astral dimension is. So I have this idea of the astral dimension, right? Now, and what the astral dimension is it, where do your thoughts exist? You know, some people have very strong visual thoughts. Some people don't have visual thoughts. But if you have very strong visual thoughts and you can imagine worlds and scenarios and faces and images in your head, I'm asking you, where does that exist? Does that exist in a tangible physical place, or is that some sort of metaphysical space? So I call that space in your mind's eye where thought exists, I call that the astral dimension. And that's also the place that dreams take place. It's a place where entire worlds can be concocted up, entire fictitious worlds in your mind, but it's not a physical place. It doesn't exist in any tangible way. So dreams happen in the astral dimension. And when people have lucid dreams, they can become in control of what is happening in this astral dimension. If you believe that people can lucid dream, if you accept that people can have that level of control over their dream state, you would accept that people can become in control of what is happening in the astral dimension. The other thing that also helps us explore the astral dimension is psychedelic drugs and the state of mind of psychosis. So when we have psychedelic drugs or we're in the state of mind of psychosis, we can hallucinate and have powerful visuals and auditory experiences which exist in the mind's eye. And they exist in the astral dimension. So we can take psychedelics and project to the astral dimension, and we can explore the astral dimension, the world within your mind. Now, here's the thing. You can either consider that each individual has their own astral dimension, or you can consider, if you believe that all consciousness is connected throughout the universe, then you would believe that we can share the same astral dimension, and then you start talking about things like ESP phenomena and people reading each other's minds and out-of-body experiences where we perceive another world which actually exists separate to our world, or is it all just within the imagination of the individual? But another way I like to explain what the astral dimension is, it's like I really like J.R.R. Tolkien, The Lord of the Rings, one of my all-time favourite fantasy series is. Now, as you know, if you know about how Tolkien wrote the book, he wrote entire languages for the elves and for the different creatures that lived in his world, and he envisioned an entire world, an entire universe, and creators do this, and George Lucas is another creator who is amazing at envisioning fictitious universes in great detail. You know, the way that George Lucas envisioned the Star Wars universe in such great detail and then directed the films, all of that imagining, he has that whole Star Wars universe in his mind's eye. That is his astral realm. That is his astral dimension. And for a guy like George Lucas to conceive of an entire fictitious universe in his mind's eye, where does it exist? Well, it exists in the astral dimension within George Lucas's mind. So that's what the astral dimension is. And like another way you can understand it, if you think about shadows, you think about an object, a three-dimensional object with light behind it casts a two-dimensional object on a surface, casts a two-dimensional shadow on a surface. So if you're looking at a square, you're holding a square in your hand, and it casts a shadow of a cube in your hand, and it casts a shadow of a square down on the surface. See, the shadow doesn't really exist. The shadow occupies a space which exists but doesn't exist. Because the shadow has shape, the shadow has form, and in things like shadow puppetry, you can tell narratives and convey narratives and meaning with shadows, but the shadow doesn't actually exist. It exists in this space which isn't real. And that's where thought exists. It exists in a space which isn't real. Now, if thought is the result of chemicals in the brain, that's fine, and I accept that. But neuroscientists and psychiatrists and those professionals who tell us that thought is the result of chemicals in the brain still can't explain where visual thoughts happen. in this abstract space in our mind called our mind's eye, where we have an inner visual and we have an inner world. Now, neuroscientists and psychiatrists and psychologists and stuff still can't explain where those visuals actually exist. They can't explain how chemicals in the brain come together to formulate a visual experience within yourself, which feels like it happens somewhere inside the center of your head, but doesn't really happen anywhere because it's like a shadow. It doesn't really exist. It's the astral dimension. So my theory is, I call that space in your mind where you see things and where you hear things and where you have inner dialogue and narrative, I call that the astral dimension. So that's one idea I want to bring to science. And remember, as I said, we can explore the astral dimension in dreams. We can explore the astral dimension through the use of psychedelic drugs. And we can also attempt to astral project and have out-of-body experiences. And the question is, do we have our own astral dimension, or is consciousness unified throughout the universe and we all share the ability to access the same astral dimension? But anyway, I've explained my idea of the astral dimension to you as best as I can at the moment. So think about that and consider the astral dimension.